What's up guys, Winterkills here, and welcome to the Shaddoll Invoked deck profile. Now if you guys haven't seen the Shaddoll Showdown vlog yet, I highly recommend you guys check it out. It'll be annotated up in the top right. Took me a couple days to put together, and I'm extremely proud of how it came out, and I'm really appreciative for all of the amazing feedback I've had on that video so far. So like I said, if you guys want to check that video out, please do so before you watch this. But for those here just for the profile, this is a Shaddoll deck featuring, of course, the new support from the structure decks with the Invoked engine. I realize the Invoked engine as of late has become a little less budget because of a few, well-to-do Invoked deck lists in some recent events. So I will be showing some more budget options and alternate options that can be played in this deck that aren't currently in here. And also I want to give a quick shout out before we go any further to Imperium Duelist, the maker of this lovely deck box that I've been using for quite some time, the sleeves that I'm rocking on the main and extra, and this beautiful playmat. If you guys want to pick up some of their sleeves, these sleeves are amazing for tournament use. They have armor sleeves that don't have effects on them, which are great for tournament use, and then they have some sleeves that do have effects on them, which can be better for more casual use. So if you guys want to pick up any of those amazing products, check their website out down in the description below. And you can get everything for 10% off using my discount code WinterKills10OFF. And you can also pick up this mat bag as well, the Shaddoll Construct themed mat bag on their site as well. So don't forget to check them out. And if you're buying anything off a TCG Player, don't forget to use my affiliate link down in the description below. So to start with the monsters, we have 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker, of course, the main normal summon of the deck. Then we have 3 Shaddoll Beast, and then that we have 3 Shaddoll Squamata. Following that, 3 Shaddoll Hedgehog, and then the last 3 of Shaddoll is the Re-Shaddoll Wendy, of course from the structure deck. Then I'm playing 2 copies of the Nail Shaddoll Ariel, and the last Shaddoll monster is 1 copy of the Shaddoll Dragon. So playing a bit heavier of a Shaddoll count here. Then into our Performance engine, I'm playing just 2 Damage Juggler and 1 Trick Clown. I decided to drop the Hat Tricker. Then going into the spells, we have the, the Heart and Soul of the deck, Triple Shaddoll Fusion. Then we have 3 El Shaddoll Fusion. Following that, we have 3 Invocation. And then following that, 3 copies of the Magical Meltdown. And then more 3-ofs here, 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. 2 copies of Pot of Desires, I just can't bring myself to play 3. 1 Burial, and the last card is a Trap, which is Resh Shaddoll Incarnation. That's it for the main deck. Now we'll go into the extra deck. So start with the extra deck. Unfortunately, we just have 2 copies of the El Shaddoll Construct, 2 copies of El Shaddoll Winda, and 1 copy of the El Shaddoll Al Capone. Then moving into the Invoke stuff, we have 1 Mechaba, 1 Purgatrio, and 1 Caliga. That rounds it out for the Fusion monsters. Then we have 1 Borrelsword Dragon, 1 Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Alistair the Invoker of Madness, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Secure Gardna, and 1 Almirage, of course, for the 1-card Mechaba with the Alistair. So that is it for the main profile, and now we'll go ahead and talk about the deck breakdown. So here we have the starter cards for the deck. There are quite a few of them here, which is pretty good because that does allow for our deck to be very consistent. Usually we want anywhere from 11 to 14 of these starter cards. Starter cards are essentially cards that have very easy activation requirements to meet, and they help facilitate our engine or see more cards. In this case, facilitating our engine involves allowing us to be able to fusion summon. One of the biggest downfalls about Shaddolls in his past is not having enough fusion spells, or not seeing any fusion spells at all, and having to play a very slow set 1 monster pass type of game. But with the addition of the Alistair engine, you're essentially adding in 9 more fusion spells that not only allow you to see more fusion cards, but also can protect your fusion spells and give you different options through your fusion summoning through the extra deck, using cards like Mechaba, Caliga, and Purgatrio to be able to win games even faster. So of course, looking at the first card here is Alistair the Invoker. This card, no brainer, is a starter card, a normal summon, essentially our only main normal summon for this deck. You could argue that a lot of the Shaddoll monsters are technically normal summons. Well, we're not really trying to normal summon them, they just so happen to be normal summons in worst case scenarios, setting them and passing and hoping for the best. But Alistair on summon does grab us a copy of Invocation, then this can be linked off into the Almirage, then that can be linked off into the Secure Gardna, which then of itself gives us the opportunity to fusion for the Invoked Mechaba, which gives us at least some form of interruption and our Alistair back to our hand and the Invocation back in the deck. Magical Meltdown, this card is fantastic. Protects the activations and effects of our fusion spells, and also protects our fusion monsters on summon, and also searches out Alistair, then again, which searches us out the invocation. So a no-brainer there as a starter card, very easy activation requirement. Same thing with invocation. This card is probably the most versatile card in the entire deck. I mean, there are other cards in here as well that can be very, very versatile, but this card allows us to fusion for our invoked fusions as well as any fusion we need, really, because we can fusion for any fusion monster using invocation, but the materials we're using have to be in our hand, which is fine because this card can act as the 7th through the 9th copy of our Shaddoll fusions, allowing us to fusion for, you know, constructs, windows, and alpacalones in our hand, which is really nice for getting those extra effects to be able to activate. Then we have the triple Shaddoll fusion, of course. This card is insane. If we're going second and they have a monster summoned from the extra deck, we can fuse from deck. So we can literally pick and choose the perfect 2 cards we want to send for whatever fusion we're trying to make. And then El Shaddoll fusion, again, just allowing us to get any fusion play started necessary. All we need is a Shaddoll and any other attribute, and we're good to go, resolving our Shaddoll effects in grave and on field. So yeah, no brainer there. These cards could also be considered extenders as well. That's just how this deck works. There's a lot of cross-roll compatibility, which is really nice because it helps make our deck a bit more versatile. So now we'll take a look at the superior extenders. Okay, so here I have laid out all of the superior extenders. Now, of course, these cards help build upon the plays that we're able to make with our starter cards. May have slightly harder activation requirements to meet, but add to the overall power level of our plays. Now, like I said earlier, there is a lot of cross-roll cards, things that are starters that could also be extenders, things of that nature. And some of those cards now I want to point out are the Allure of Darkness, the Pot of Desires, and the Foolish Burial. These cards all could be considered starter cards in a given hand. Of course, Foolish allowing us to dump any of our Shaddolls to trigger whatever effect we may need. Desires and Allure allowing us to see into more cards, giving us additional chances to see fusion spells, which of course is really great in a deck like this. So, starting off, we have the Perform Age Trick Clown. It is a light target, of course, for our Shaddoll fusion plays, which is very pivotal because we do need good light targets to send for our construct. Trick Clown, very, very easy to use. If it hits the grave, you pay 1,000, summon it out, and you've got extra link or fusion fodder on your field. Allure of Darkness simply requires the dark in hand and obviously allows you to see into more cards, more chances to see into better and more powerful cards. Then we have 2 Pot of Desires, same concept applies there as the Allure. Foolish Burial, again allowing us to, you know, tutor out any card we need to the graveyard and resolve its effect. Then we have the 3 Shaddoll Wendy, the 3 Shaddoll Hedgehog, and the 3 Shaddoll Beast. The reason why Squamata is not being listed as a superior extender, because Squamata doesn't really, I mean, I know it has an effect, but it doesn't do much on its own. Its sole purpose is to dump other Shaddoll cards to the graveyard. When these guys are a little bit higher priority, because when they hit the grave, they're actually giving us a valuable effect. That doesn't chain into another effect that we need to resolve to try to resolve a effect that we actually need to resolve. You know, Shaddoll Wendy sets a Shaddoll from deck, allowing us to combo possibly with our trap, or other cards we may have, getting us fusion fodder on board, things like that. Hedgehog gives us more Shaddolls to our hand, or in a worst case scenario, can get us a fusion spell. And then Shaddoll Beast, again, allows us to dig deeper into our deck mid-combo, or again, combo out really well with the Wendy to set up more draw plays later on. So that is it for the superior extenders. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the additional extenders. Here I have laid out all the additional extenders for the deck, and again, the other Shaddoll monsters could also technically be considered additional extenders since they really can only get their effect once used for fusion summoning. But of course, we have the 3 Shaddoll Squamata. This card, when it hits the grave, allows us to send any other Shaddoll card from our deck to the grave. So it's basically just sort of a redundant effect. You know, in most cases, you can get this, whatever you need, to the graveyard directly instead of sending it to this. But sometimes you need the Squamata to be able to dump additional cards like this Shaddoll or your fusion spells to the grave that your other fusion monsters cannot get access to. That your other Shaddoll monsters cannot get access to. So these are the additional extenders here, and first things first, we have the 3 Shaddoll Squamata here. Its effect is a bit redundant in the fact that you can send a Shaddoll card from the deck to the grave with it, instead of just sending that other card you would be sending anyways. The thing that's unique about Squamata, though, is it can send any Shaddoll card. So it can send your fusion spells and your Shaddoll trap cards to the graveyard, like Resh Shaddoll Incarnation here, that your other Shaddoll monsters cannot do themselves. Now, granted, Construct can do the same thing, but sometimes you'll need the opportunity to be able to send 2 Shaddoll cards from the deck to the grave, one of which may be a spell or trap, and the other may be another spell or trap, or another monster. It really depends on what type of field you're trying to build. So yeah, 3 Squamata is great. Again, I'm playing a higher Shaddoll count in here for obvious reasons as well, because of the main decked Pot of Desires, and of course the triple Allure of Darkness, because we need plenty of 3-ofs and plenty of dark targets. So next up we have the 3 Nail Shaddoll Ariel. Basically, this card really is only good for doing one thing. That is, of course, for being a triple call by the grave, but also being a great additional extender to set up with this trap card. Because if you resolve a construct, you can send, per se, a Squamata for the fusion spell, and then off of the construct, send this. Or vice versa, you could use the Squamata to send this, and then use the construct to send the Resh. And then from there, you can use the Resh to summon this, and then banish the Incarnation to flip up the Ariel to summon any banished Shaddoll from your grave. Typically, it could be something like Construct to trigger a Cloth Heap, or Cross Sheep, whatever it may be. So this card is really great for making more plays, but it is a bit harder to set up. Then we have 2 Perform Mage Damage Juggler here. This card doesn't really do anything in the grave other than allowing us to get an additional opportunity to be able to search the Perform Mage Trick Clown and get additional light targets to our hand. So it's basically like we're playing 3 copies of Trick Clown, but this gives us the opportunity to be able to send something to the deck, and then also give us an opportunity to be able to add another light monster from our deck to our hand if need be for more fusion plays. Then lastly here we have the 1 Resh Shaddoll Incarnation. I really do like this trap. The time I was playing this deck at locals, I really like this trap. There's a lot of situations where this card saved me for being able to reborn a Shaddoll out of my graveyard and face down defense. And then the combo you can do with this card by flipping up Nail, by bringing back a construct that you banished off of this, to trigger a Cross Sheep and then trigger a construct effect again. I really do like this card a lot for it, but consider just right now playing 1, because it's really only good right when you can send it off the construct to set up those pivotal plays and those combos. Okay, that is it for the additional extenders. Now we'll take a look at defense. So here I'm pulling out some cards that I could consider defensive cards, those being Damage Juggler and the Resh Shaddoll. Of course, this is basically a hand trap that you can discard to the grave to make the next battle damage you would take become 0, so this can buy you extra turns. And then of course Resh can revive any Shaddoll out of the grave in order for you to make more plays, or sort of save yourself if need be, to during your opponent's turn as they enter the battle phase, summon a Shaddoll Beast and face down defense, or a dragon, whatever it may be. So if they do attack into it, they're going to probably lose a monster in the process. Then some other things that you could consider defensive cards. The very unique thing about El Shaddoll Fusion is that it is a quick play. So that means we can use it during our opponent's turn to be able to fuse into Winda whenever we need to slow our opponent's turn down drastically. So this card could also technically be considered a floodgate. Now for removal cards, we have cards like Squamata and Dragon. Before, I really considering these cards removal cards would be kind of lackluster, simply because they'd have to be set for a turn and then flip face up to either destroy a monster or target a card your opponent controls and return to the hand. But since we do have that trap card, an instant access to basically flip up any Shaddoll the same turn it is set, these cards are a little bit more viable as far as removal cards are concerned, especially when you take into account the trap. So the triple Squamata and Dragon can come in nice for, some removal cards. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the extra deck, and to start we have the 1 Salamangreat Almirage. This is of course for the Alistair Invoker. Then the Secure Garnet, of course, to go along with said Alistair, because you can link this off for this with the Alistair and give yourself a 1-card Mechaba, which I think in some simplified game states is very important to have that option, although it does take up 1 slot in the extra deck. Then we have the Cross Sheep, probably the most important card in the extra deck as far as comboing is concerned. You definitely really need this card. Then we have the Shaddoll Construct. This card comes up a lot, especially with Cross Sheep plays and Construct plays. It's very easy to get this card out onto the field and be able to use it to extend your plays even further. So then we also have the Alistair the Invoker of Madness. This card is also very, very great. You can link into this to get even further access to fusion plays. The discard, I believe, triggers Shaddoll effects too. And just being able to search out more invocations, like I said, for more fusion plays is very, very nice. Appaloosa, this card I was considering replacing with Avermax and playing like IP Masquerena, because you can end on some boards with Avermax and like the Winda. So not only the Winda can't basically be destroyed by card effects, but also can be destroyed by battle. So I like that aspect of it, but I feel like this could be a little bit more versatile in some cases. And then, of course, the Go for Game Dragon, Borrelsword Dragon to round off the links, because this deck can OTK, and Borrelsword makes that much easier. Now we'll go into the fusions, where we have just 2 copies of El Shaddoll Construct. I wish it was 3, but there's just no space for 3 right now. Maybe I could have Winda down to 1, but I feel like Winda is also a very important and pivotal piece of the extra deck. But maybe it could go to 1 in place of a 3rd. So I have 2 Winda alongside the 2 Construct. Like I said, for a Construct though, this like the combos of this card is absurd. The Send effect is not once per turn. The Add Back effect is not once per turn. It's just insane. Non-targeting destruction. What else could you ask for? Then the 1 Al Capone or Apgalone. It hits the board and negates a card. And if it's sent from the if it's just sent to the graveyard period, you can add a Shaddoll card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then discard a card. So can be an outlet for Shaddolls, and can also add you any Shaddoll card from deck to hand, which is pretty cool. Mechaba, then Purgatrio, then Caliga. Incredible Floodgate, good solid negation card to go into, and then this card can outright steal games, especially if you have that Almirage in your graveyard. So that is it for the extra deck. Just a few honorable mentions before we move forward into this video. Like I said, it could be possibly adding in a 3rd Construct, possibly playing a card like Dweller, because this card can be made very easily. Gravity Controller was something else I was thinking about playing too. I was playing it in a previous build, but have since cut it. But this is a card like I might actually side deck going forward, so keep that in mind. The IP Masquerena play with the Unicorn, or possibly the Avermax. These are other cards I was thinking about playing as well. So if there are some cards in here that are a bit too expensive for those that like don't want to pick up like this card, because this card is ridiculously expensive, there are other options that are a bit cheaper for the most part. So yeah, that is it for the extra deck. As I mentioned before, I have some other options that can be played in this deck, and the first one I want to talk about is the Fairy Tail Luna engine, which can replace the Alistair Invoker engine, the Invoked engine, whatever you want to call it. But basically, this will free up 6 slots if you put this in place of the Invoked engine, which can be used to put in more hand traps, cards like Impermanence, the Gamma, Psyframe package, things like Super Poly, whatever it may be. So I really do like this card. It's a light, it's a great interruption card as well. Then we have 3 Super Polymerization. This is a card that could be mained in here, but again, like the extra deck space is really, really tight. And like I kind of wanted to like play maybe 1 direct Super Poly target. Granted, you don't need to main Super Poly targets in this extra deck, because a lot of our fusions have like half generic fusion requirements, so Super Poly can be pretty great there. But again, I feel like for my meta, it wouldn't be best to main this, because having this in the main deck pretty much assures that you'll probably lose to a lot of rogue matchups, like Altergeist or even Subterror. So I just don't like this card specifically being in the main. I just think that's just a little too many fusion cards, but this card could be great in the side deck. Then some other options, Pot of Avarice or Mind Control in the main deck are also nice. I think Pot of Avarice still has some good merit in this deck, because, you know, you can recycle a lot of your engine at once, and then, you know, sort of plus off of it as well. Also, I'll give a quick example of what my side deck currently looks like. So I have just 3 copies of Danko Sekka. The normal summon isn't too valuable in most cases in this deck, and Danko is a light, so it is a fantastic card to have in here. Pankratops and Artifact Scythe, because I am opting to side the Artifact package, because I think it works pretty well. Dark Ruler and Lightning Storm. If I had more Lightning Storm, these would probably just be Lightning Storms, but Dark Ruler is still an incredible card. 3 Evenly Matched, this card's insane. 3 Sanctum, and then 1 Red Reboot for those back row heavy matchups, because those hurt us quite a bit. But yeah, that's it for my side deck. Now I'll go ahead and talk about what I would typically side out. So cards that could be sided out consist of some of the additional 3-ofs that we have in the extra deck, like the Beast, the Hedgehog, the Wendy, and the Squamata. These all could be dropped down to 2 apiece going into the next game. Ariel also could be played at 1 in the later games. Same thing with the Damage Juggler. Now with siding out a few dark targets, siding out an Allure might be an okay idea as well. And then the other card that I would possibly consider siding out is the Resh Shaddoll Incarnation, because this card isn't absolutely vital for your engine, so it is okay to side it out. Allure, the one of Allure is probably the only draw power I would go so far as to side out, because we are siding out a couple dark targets to go along with it, so I feel like that is okay. But giving us at least 8 slots to work with in our side deck to potentially put in against, you know, really back row heavy decks like the Triple Evenly, the Red Reboots per se, the Lightning Storm, and even then the Triple Danko Sekka, giving us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, slots, like I said. So working out just fine there to be able to put all these in against potentially, like, you know, Paleo or Altergeist, things like that. So definitely some room to work with in the side deck and the main deck as well. So yeah, that's going to do it for this profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, and don't forget to check out the Shaddoll vlog as well. Worked very hard on that one. Love for you guys to see it if you haven't already. But yeah, Winterkill is signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.